One of the most commonly asked questions that I see from especially scaling and growing boutique owners inside of the Boutique Hub is, Ashley, I want to work with my spouse. I want to bring my husband on board. We might kill each other, but it all also might be magical. You never know. So this week, I'm pumped because two of my favorite people, an amazing couple that I have been so blessed and so lucky to get to spend time with this last year, are here to tell you all about working together, and not only working together, but how they have scaled an awesome business, maximizing systems and processes and love languages of their team members along the way. Not only have they built a business that we all could admire, they've built a culture that we could all admire as well. This week, you're going to hear from Amy and Anthony Ekren, the owners of Inherit Clothing Co., and they're going to talk about their not traditional journey into the boutique world by actually not starting the business, but purchasing and scaling the business. You're going to see an inside view of their life working together as a husband and wife couple and how they have grown this awesome business, and even talk about the unglamorous side of systems and processes that have helped them along the way. I'm so excited for you to meet these two. They are a ton of fun, and I'm telling you, they are go-getters. So get ready to learn from Amy and Anthony this week on the podcast. Let's talk about your business, strategy, and the juicy details of what actually works, from mainstream fashion to fashion on Main Street and the entire ecosystem behind it. How do we scale your company and do it with the balance and the happiness that we all seek? Let's hear from those insiders, experts, and strategists that actually make it happen. I'm your host, Ashley Alderson from the Boutique Hub, and I can't wait to chat. Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast. I am so excited about this one. You guys better buckle up because two of my favorite people are joining me. I love getting to have married couples on the podcast. I feel like it doesn't happen very often. So Amy and Anthony, you guys, I'm so pumped to have you here today. Welcome to the show.
Thanks so much.
We're so excited to be here.
Oh my gosh, I am so used to seeing you guys on two separate screens on our mastermind call. So to see you together in one space, I mean, let the snuggling begin, right, Anthony?
This is hard for me, Ashley. Absolutely hard, yeah.
He keeps shoving me off the screen.
I know, I like my space. And
Well, we've got lots to uncover today. Being a married couple, all the things you guys have done with this business, your systems, your processes, the things that I just think you guys do an amazing job at. But in case those listening haven't had a chance to meet you yet, take me back through your story because your guys' business story is very unique. It's different than most other boutiques. So whoever wants to start, take me back to this beginning of this journey for you.
Yeah. So in 2017, I was a wedding and lifestyle photographer and had been getting super busy and had 37 weddings in a year. And it was just a time for me to be like, wait, what am I doing? This is a lot for our family. And I kind of started it as a stay-at-home mom and it just grew from there. And it was great for evenings and weekends and fit with that lifestyle. So then it started to be evenings and weekends away from my family. And so we had just talked as a couple and decided to let's cut down. I actually rebranded my wedding photography business and upped my prices, changed who my client was, and then started going to the cities more, which is like a 3-hour drive for me. And it half the weddings, but still not what I thought I wanted. So then I got an email in my inbox from my cousin who lived in Illinois, and we're based in Minnesota. And he was like, hey, there's this business and there's this lady doing this thing and she really wants to sell and it needs to be the right person. And I think you're a fit. And we're an entrepreneurial family. My dad started businesses and I was a part of that journey. And so he's like, this is a fit for you. So I went and told Anthony right away and thought, what is this? Like, we just got life figured out. There's no way I'm not buying this boutique. Are you kidding me? It was a modest women's clothing company. And Anthony, what'd you say?
like in 10 seconds after the email, I'm like, let's do this. We got this.
And he is not a risk taker. I am. So that kind of stopped me in my tracks. So this business was in existence for 12 years and it's a modest women's clothing company. And she had, sold denim skirts door to door, kind of like a Tupperware style, with a U-Haul trailer and went around all over the United States and did that. And then she got on Instagram and the website and it just grew to a point where she was like, this isn't what I want anymore. So it was doing well. It just needs someone to take the reins. And I'm a modest dresser. When I was 24, I turned my life to the Lord and changed how I dressed. And I love fashion, and I had to basically go in my mom's closet, and I was like, this is ridiculous. So depressing, but knew I needed to change the way I dressed. And there's just nothing out there. And so for me, when this business came, it was like, oh my word, this is a need. So that was really exciting to me, and more of like what I thought was an 8 to 5. I'm like, oh yeah, which we all know it's more of a 24-hour thing. So that kind of lured me in. So we definitely prayed about it for a while, thought about it, kind of went back and forth, and then decided like this is what God has planned for us. And it felt very purpose driven because it's so hard to find trendy, cool, modest clothing on the market. And so that's what really drove us. And that's what we felt like God was telling us to do. So that's kind of how we started.
I love that. Anthony, I've got to ask you this because I know you're very like processes and funnels and numbers and opportunities, like you're very metric driven. So I'm curious, as you guys were making that decision, like Amy, I know you're also very heart driven. Anthony, how did you analyze the business at that point and just decide like, okay, here's the potential I see. And I know we could, implement these systems or processes or whatever it might be to make this fit
Yeah, so I
us.
think, I just poured over the books and talked with the previous owners, and they were really excited because they actually had their own brand and they had everything. They had like the framework set up to grow that brand, and that was really exciting looking at. They just had a few products with their brand, and they're like, but if you just took it a little bit further, we could just do more. I like, you guys got this. We'll help you start. And that's what really got me excited that, hey, this could be a thing. There's already a customer base, a brand following, like, and there were some opportunities there that we saw in the finances that could help us along the way right away.
Yeah, that's so good. So you guys decided to take this on. You came in, I'm sure the first couple of months were a little maybe tricky or overwhelming, I'm assuming, right? But then you made this decision eventually to rebrand and really make this company your own. I feel like I see that question a lot in the hub of, okay, should I rebrand? How can I go about the process? How long should it take? Best practices. Walk me through that process for you guys. What worked to make this brand your own?
Well, first of all, we probably did everything wrong when rebranding. So it was exciting, but a really scary time for us, I would say.
Yeah, and I didn't mess around. I hired a company to help us do that. So there's a company in Minnesota, and we hired them, and they interviewed me. And, just I spoke my heart of what I want the business to be. Like, I figured out our values. They walked me through vision, mission, belief statement. And like, I really set the core of our business. So we had traction, going forward. So that really helped. I picked like the colors I liked, a logo, a name that meant something to me. So it really was a process, and it took time, like, 4 weeks. It wasn't like a quick thing. But that foundation has served us every single day. And when I look back at that brand guide that we've created, it's still true today. And so that's what I always go back to when doing anything. So that really helped us. The thing he's talking about is we went from the name used to be the Skirt Outlet to Inherit Clothing Company. And inherit for me is, you inherit a home in heaven someday. And that's just to always remind us why we're here on this earth. So that's why I picked that. But Skirt is SEO driven. Yeah. So we took skirt out of our name, and our organic traffic like boom, went way down, and we didn't like think through that. So just those are some things you can think about when rebranding. But we've figured it out since then, and that it's okay to choose a name that isn't SEO driven, but it just went from one to the other. So yeah.
That was the scary part. But like building that foundation, it's crazy looking back. We did this 4 years ago, the branding 5 years ago.
5 years ago.
Yeah, it rings true today, and that's really awesome. A testament to how good that company did for us, for sure.
That's so good. So walk me through just a couple of checklist items for a second. If someone's like, I should rebrand, but I don't want to miss something. I don't want to totally screw up my SEO. And I think to your point, a lot of people don't even think about that. They don't think about all the value they've built in organic traffic over the years. So if there were like a couple of, okay, don't forget these three things when you're rebranding.
Yeah, I think
what would those
there's
be?
two pieces, and it's like the people piece, like your heart and purpose. And so figuring out what is your purpose. And ours is, we want to build a global brand that inspires a community of women to live joyfully and provide modest clothing that transcends the trends to the world. And if anything you buy, say, or do goes along with that, you're doing the right thing. And then also core values, when you're hiring, those are super important. And then also when you're talking about the marketing, like, so your name, your brand colors, your logo, your font. And honestly, it can sound overwhelming, but it helps you on later. So it's like you choose, 4 different fonts and use those all the day. And pretty soon it's like the Target logo or Nike, when it's on there who it is. And if a Target store somewhere uses a different font, you kind of look twice, like that's not their font, but you don't like think about it. So it actually makes your life easier and makes your customer recognize you. And so I think those things are so important, and you can kind of get swayed with, oh, let's change it because it's cute. But if you really just use the same ones, and then you can add a new font in here or there, but we use the same brand colors and all the things, and that's really helpful.
For sure.
Yeah. I would bet that your photography has a lot to do with that too, even at that stage of branding. And I feel like that's maybe an issue in our industry today, especially with so much drop shipping happening, is that so many stores start to look like one another, but because they don't have their own photography. Would you have any tips on how do I make my photography look like my own along the way?
Yeah. So honestly, I had a style when I came in from my photography. So it's light and airy. And I do like to use blurred background, which isn't really standard in the industry, but it's more of a lifestyle photography. So that carries in our brand. It actually helps it look like you can use this clothing in real life. And it just, so it's not like front, back, side. It's like movement, like all those things. So we have a brand guide for our photography style as well, like what to do, what not to do. So movement is huge. And then that light and airy look.
I love that. I love the brand guide piece of all of that. That flows into everything else that you guys do. Something else I think you guys do really well is just, again, going back to the modest women's clothing, right? Like, your customer.
Yes.
Talk to me about how you continue to speak to your customer and understand her as she evolves and changes, and how you go about finding more customers just like her. I feel like I always say this in the hub, the riches are in the niches, right? Like, if we all just knew who our customer really was and we could solve her problems, our life would be so much easier every day.
So, we made personas with our brand style guide, but if you could just take a step back, our customers, Amy and her sisters, right? And so the more we can just speak to Amy and her sisters,
and my grandma and my mom
and
all the people in my life. And so those personas do keep evolving. And I know, did retail boot camp, sent out a survey to my customers, and you talk niche and age, ours are literally 0 to 100. So modest is niche in itself, but how do I serve my grandma and a 2-year-old? It's kind of a struggle, but we do have some, a stay-at-home mom, conservative, loves Target, Joanna Gaines, that sort of feel. But then we also have teacher or someone who necessarily isn't conservative Christian, but doesn't want to wear a crop top. So we have these different personas that we buy for and think about, and then teen, tween, and also a little girl. So we do have those names and those people that we buy for, and that's so helpful.
And then market to those people as well.
Yes. Yep. Mm-hmm. And that's evolving each year.
You also, in your photography too, are you trying to make sure you've got models that kind of fit all those different demographics?
We do. It's a struggle because we live in small town USA, 9,000 people in our county, but we have different demographics. So we have teen, we have little girls, we have maternity, and then we have 50 plus model, plus size, all the things. We try to represent each of those categories.
And then you're constantly, we can look at products with who took the model that took the picture, and then decide, hey, is this working or not, based on sales, and you just kind of pivot from there and make those decisions. And a little bit of that's kind of like your gut feeling, but that's served us well as well.
Mm-hmm. Anthony, I know you're so good at analyzing on the marketing piece. I would say the SEO and the traffic, and understanding, like you said, is this model performing, or is it the product that's performing? All those pieces. Walk me through a day in the life of your brain when it comes to marketing, and how you start to analyze those processes to help Amy better understand the social media and the marketing piece, but also the buying piece? What are the things you're looking
Oh
for?
boy, that's a big question, Ashley. So
Margins.
margins. It's really
Boo.
yeah. No, it's really just like so I didn't have a background in boutique obviously as well, but I came from more of an analytical background in the agriculture industry. So it's really just finding like sometimes I come to work, it's like, okay, what am I going to find today that could help? And then it's thinking through the
Hmm.
process and figuring out, okay, what metric would work well. And so sometimes it's a little non-traditional in terms of like the verbiage the boutique uses and the marketing world uses, but a lot of it revolves around margin or what's working in any of the social medias or email campaigns, and and then why did it work and how can we replicate it and grow that.
Hmm. That's so good. So how do you communicate that on a daily basis? How do you take what you found and make changes and implement it? And how do you argue it out when you disagree?
24/7 all over. Just kidding. We do metric meetings with our team. And so once every 2 weeks, we're meeting with each individual here and we have big goals as a team. And then we break those up into action items every 2 weeks. So we just chink away at it. We have a big vision meeting planned here soon. And I have 2 folders this big that scare everybody. And he takes it to the team and breaks them down into little ones. But we get there that way instead of the way that I have with the big folders. And so we just check in every 2 weeks. We all work on something together and individually and get those knocked off.
Yeah, so like a great example right now is the the person that runs our website. We're working with some after purchase upsells, right? And it's like you have all the options in the world to do, and it's like, okay, so where do you start, and then how do you get better at it? And it's just a lot of times it's honestly, and this is Amy's help, but just starting, right? Just do the first thing. Like I can get ahead of myself and never start something because it's overwhelming or I'm just not quite sure how to do it, but just start it and then measure it and then get it better. So we're working with like after purchase upsells right now and figuring out the right combination of product to that complements whatever the customer's purchasing. And then just increasing the upsell percentage a little bit, a little bit, a little bit until finally it's like, okay, I think we got this. We understand it. And then moving on to the next thing. So that's like an example of something we would work through on our metric meetings.
That's so helpful. And it's funny because just knowing you two, I can see how your personalities are so complementary in that way. Like Amy, like, we has this great idea. Hey, let's do this thing. And then Anthony's like, okay, like one piece at a time. But like, what a great compliment to one another. But I know you guys also have built an amazing team around you. Talk me through that process, because Amy, I know it goes back to what you were saying about even just your mission, vision, values, and the very initial branding you did. That's at the core and the foundation of all of your team, right? How did you first start to grow that team as you took the company over? And then we'll talk about what it is today.
Yeah, I think we've been in a lot of different stages in our business. And currently we're like, if you have our values of keep it classic and simple, if you have a strong work ethic, if you're here to create a community of positive people, if you have integrity, spirit of humility, and you want to serve others, you can be on this team. And if I totally trust all those things, then we're going to be okay. And a lot of things are teachable. And if you don't have those values, then I don't care if you are the smartest SEO person in the world and you're in our door. If you don't have those, it's not going to work here. And you have to believe in the purpose too. And I think as people come in the door and they're with us, like you start to bleed the brand and you really believe in it and you work together towards something. And that feels really good. And so now we are hiring for more specific talent in different areas, but those values are still so important. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of the core of our employees. And we make sure they have those when they walk in the door. And you don't want to just quick hire someone to get something done. Sometimes that takes time. So.
And really too, it's like we had to work on our own systems first and make sure that whoever comes in the door, we can set them up for success, because we've had, the other way is not very fun.
Yeah. So systems are everything. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I want to talk more about your systems in just a minute, but just going back to this team, as you've like identified, they fit the culture, right? Like made the cut and they're on the team. But then I see you guys going above and beyond with always doing like personality profiles, and you've got these like pictures of all your team on the wall that talks about who they are. How do you continue, like as your teammates even continue to grow as individuals and change as individuals, how do you continue to maintain that culture over time and help them to grow in their positions over
Yeah,
time?
and this is some things I've learned from our other family business, but who you are at home and who you are at work are the same person, and they need to be. And like, I want to encourage personal growth as much as growth here. And if you're not okay at home, you're not going to be okay here. And that's super important to us. And so faith first, then family, and then work. And how can we help you grow in your faith and your family so that when you come here, you're ready to rock and you're not worried about everything else? And I think the most important thing is getting people in their joy spot. And so we do a disc profile test, and that is a free one online. That's and you can also buy a version, that's better. But then also the Enneagram test, and also we do Working Genius, which is a new one. And so they're personality tests to see where your strengths are, and the Working Genius is actually where your working strengths are. And if you're not in your joy spot there, it's going to be awful. You're going to feel that. And so before we actually hire a person, we analyze all those things and make sure that the position they're going to be in is going to fulfill their joy spot. And then that helps so much weed out through anything in the beginning and gets them right where they need to be almost at the start. Yeah, and then we have an employee break room, and we have all the pictures everywhere of everybody, and it's like your favorite food, all those things posted, so that when you're working with others in the business and you're maybe frustrated with something, you can look at that sheet and be like, oh, right. She's an Enneagram 8. She needs control. Okay, we got to make her feel like she's got control in this situation so that she will perform well. And it's not manipulative. It's actually just understanding people. And it's so important. And I think you can get so inundated with day-to-day tasks and like, we just got to get stuff done. But if you care and work with others in that way, the work will get performed at top level. And that's so important.
Yeah, that's so important. I mean, just the way that, like you said, it's not manipulative, but it's just understanding what makes people tick. I would also venture to guess that that works well for you guys because you also have analyzed making sure people are in the right seats in terms of like your accountability chart, right? Like there's very clear distinction between what is Amy's role, what is Anthony's role, what is everyone else's role. How do you like maintain that even flow chart and accountability chart of making sure people are in the right seats?
Yeah, we have an organizational chart with our team, and we just had a vision meeting too. And Anthony is, I mean, not to go into the Working Genius, but his enablement is one of them. And that means you do the task. Well, he doesn't have that on his thing at all. Like he hates it. So if you give him something to do, he ain't gonna do it. Drives me bonkers. And I'm like, well, can you at least do some tasks here? Like you can't just walk around with coffee and laugh at people and wonder and invent ideas. We need you to do things, but actually it's not his choice spot. So we need to surround him with people who can't invent ways to do things, who can't make systems, who aren't analytical to do the task. They just want to be told what to do and how to do it. And he will be there for him. But my personality is like, well, just do some things. Can you help out a little bit here? But he is in a different capacity. So you can see how you get super frustrated with people if they're not in the right spot. So we're trying to get him to a spot where he can just walk around with a coffee cup that says coach on it. And that's all he's going to do. And I'm going to need to be okay with that.
The calm within the storm, Ashley.
I totally believe that. I totally believe that, Anthony. You're in the right spot, right? I feel like I see a coffee cup coming in your future as a gift. That's perfect. So talk me through what you said, Amy. What I heard you say that Anthony's really good at is those systems too. Well, you both are really good at systems.
Yeah, so I think he's really good at thinking about what the possibility of the system could be. And then him and I are good at inventing them together. Like, what does that look like on an Excel document or with a metrics meeting, to hold people accountable to that system. And then I'm good at making sure it gets done. That's tenacity in the Working Genius. So I'll make sure it gets finished. He might just wonder for the rest of the year and never actually action it. And I'm like, that's my piece to get his butt in gear to get it to the rest of the team. So, all those pieces are important.
Yeah. And we didn't know that going into this business, any of that stuff, but we work well together. And it's like, oh, that's why. Because she does the things I can't do. So it's awesome.
Yeah.
Man, let's talk about this piece because I'm sure there's a lot of people listening that are like, okay, either I would die to work with my spouse, it would be so great, or I am working with my spouse and I'm struggling, or oh my gosh, I could never work with my spouse. We would kill each other, right? There's probably those three categories. So talk me through the biggest lessons you've learned working with one another. And I'll just even say this, like when Eric and I started working together, it took us a while to find our places and not kill each other. Like we really had to define each other's roles and understand, again, personality types, all that. So what are some of the biggest lessons you guys have learned?
I would just say the first thing is it's never going to be 100% perfect. So each week we struggle with, oh yeah, that's right. That's not his job. That's my job. Let's stay in our roles. So you're going to constantly be fighting that, I think. But definitely, yeah. And we're not one to like keep work at work or keep, home at home. Like to me, there's no balance. It's a circle and it all has to work together. And so I think when we recognize that, that's really helped us too. I don't know. What would you say?
Yeah, and like properly defining what our roles are within the business is very, very important. Like Amy's the CEO, so she's in charge. And at work, it's making sure that I respect that she has the ultimate say in stuff, and she's going to have the vision. And then making sure Amy remembers I just want to be a coach with coffee. And as long as we can remember that, it works really well. But the conflict comes in when we're stepping into each other's roles, and that's when it gets to be we're butting heads more. But
which happens, and our team here is just really awesome with putting up with us. But
but I mean, we want the same thing at the end of the day, which is exciting, and I want to make sure that I'm supportive of Amy and everything she wants in life, and vice versa. So.
Yeah, that's so good. How do you manage, like, just going back to thinking about your team, right? Sometimes with a couple working together, there's a tendency for teammates to say, kind of like if mom says no, dad will say yes kind of mentality. How do you guys manage that to make sure that's never an issue for you? Like your team knows the proper path of communication and accountability. So there's never a mom versus dad moment.
Yeah, we do have, actually that does happen. But when you create a system, it can't. Mm-hmm. So when you have a system for each department, you can't just go in rogue and do whatever you want, Anthony.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So that holds him accountable. It holds me accountable, too, because I can just kind of like get stuff done and not listen to the system, but that's not respectful to the rest of my team or employees. So those systems help you protect yourself from yourself, which I think is awesome.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know what Beth says on our team? You guys know Beth, and we all love Beth because she's the doer, the integrator, So sometimes she'll clap for our whole team and she'll say, rules make it fun. Rules make it fun. And we're like, oh my God, Beth. But she's right. Like those systems, I feel like it is the least talked about thing in this industry, but it's probably one of the most important things that ensure success is making sure we're all on the same page and we have a system for everything. I think it's one of the main reasons, especially growing and scaling businesses fall down, is they just don't have those in place. Do you have one central place that manages all those systems, or how does your team know what all your systems are?
We don't. What we do is we use Google Drive for everything, and then we have best practices and protocol for each system, and we just build those out with each. You just identify an issue and then you solve it with this best practices and protocol sheet. So it kind of touches every point of our business that needs a system.
Yeah. So each employee has a scorecard with what they're responsible for daily, weekly, monthly, what their best practices they're responsible for. And that's right on that sheet. And then things that we're going to work towards to improve their job. And we go over those improve their job metrics every other week, like Amy was saying. So it's all right there. We can see it together and go over it together and just always revisit it with everybody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's so good. And you're coaching them along the way. I love that. That's very similar for us too. Eric's like that coach that's helping them reach those steps.
Yep.
I have a very personal question for you both, because I feel like Eric and I get this, we run into this. So I'm really curious if you guys do. I think it's a culture thing. So this is a women's boutique that you guys have. And I don't know if people ask you oh, Anthony, what's your role, or what's it like to work for your wife? Or if people make comments or digs, we get that. Eric gets that. And at first it was super frustrating for us. I don't work for my wife. Are you kidding? Or, what do you even do all day, Eric? So we've had to learn how to balance that and manage it in our life, because it's false. But I'm curious if you guys have run into that, and what is it like to be a man in a, quote unquote woman's world? How do you handle that?
I think, I mean, yeah, we get that from the community, but we're in a small community and everybody knows Amy and I's personalities, so it maybe makes that easier. Where, but yeah, I don't know how to answer that.
Yeah, I think when he left his previous job, it took him a while to come on board because he was kind of maybe feeling that way, or he didn't want all our eggs in one basket, but probably it was more the issue. And the team at work photoshopped the skirt outlet on his truck and like sent it around on email. Like, oh, he's going to sell skirts now, But at the end of the day, I feel like we respect each other and everyone sees his huge value in the business. And I think people talk about, being oppressed by men and all the things. And I've only been oppressed by women in my life. The men in my life cheer me on and lift me up. And he has been so supportive in that. And I think the whole team sees that, community, anybody who knows him. And, everybody has their value.
Yeah.
And
it's understanding, like, I never want to be in charge.
Right? He doesn't ever want that role.
Yeah, I don't want that role, so it makes it a little easier for me too. It's like, no, I'm not interested. Thank you.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I love that. I just think it's such a good example of a power couple. Like truly you're a power couple. You work together, you know each other's strengths and weaknesses. But ultimately, you want what's best for one another, and there doesn't have to be a you versus me, man versus woman attached to that. And so to all the men, because I know there's a lot of men in our industry now, I just say, go you, rah, rah, let's do this. I love to see couples supporting couples, no matter what, no roles defined. So
yeah,
cool.
And I think when you
all
at all those personality tests and everything, it's all a level playing field. It doesn't we all just have different talents and let's work together towards that. So that's how it feels that we're just working arm in arm with our whole team together.
Yeah. I think the more people who get to know probably you, Anthony, and I know this is true for Eric too, the more they understand the workings on a daily basis, they're like, you lucky son of a gun. You lucky guy, you've got it made. You've got a good spot. Absolutely. So that's, yeah. All right. Couple quick lightning round questions. Okay. All right. Where do you go when you're feeling burnt out or unmotivated or uninspired? Where do you go to get refueled and recharged?
Retail therapy, of course.
Yeah.
We go to our cabin.
Yeah. Yeah. And Amy will work, when Amy's feeling that way, she'll work from home more, which recharges her. And yeah, I'll go on vacation. Yeah.
Perfect. Rules that you have set for working together and living together.
I don't ever want to go to bed upset. That is a rule that I have, and we got to work it out.
Yep. And there's a point in time during my day where I'm done with work and I'll communicate that no, I'm good.
And I respect that most of the time. Yeah.
Most of the time. Oh my gosh. All right. Best business book or podcast?
Oh, I am a huge Ezra fan, so I'm consuming everything he puts out. Absolutely.
Oh, business book.
I would love to meet him. Yeah.
Well, we were at Summit when he was there.
Yeah, that was awesome. So much fun.
For me, I like the Good to Great book, Traction. That's where I'm at right now, rereading those. I think there's so many good things. 7 highly effective habits of people, or I can't remember how that one went. Just those kind of books. And I think they're rereads and just always going back to those. Those are my favorite. I love Ed Milet. I feel like he's my personality. So he's always go, go, go. And I love him. So yeah.
I love that. All right.
This podcast, of course.
Absolutely.
I'll slip you 20 minutes later, Amy. You know it. Thank you. All right. You guys have kids. So what is your best tip for other parents managing a business and a busy family? How do you do both?
We have a Google Calendar and we use that. And I have Inherit Schedules, Inherit Sales and Marketing. I have Inherit Family. We invite all of our children to all their events. And that's how we invite grandparents, because all the things, and him and I. And so we kind of go through it day by day, what we need to do, who needs to go where. Anthony brings all the kids to school and generally picks them all up. we just kind of set that, but then there's been seasons where we've switched that. So I don't think you need to feel you need to set something with defining roles with who's cooking, who's doing groceries, or you can, depending on personalities, but it definitely ebbs and flows for us.
Yeah, since we've been married like 18 years, and that's always transitioning and who's doing what based on the time of season. Yeah.
We also have a shared notes on our iPhones for groceries, and the kids can put, because they're always like, there's never anything to eat. And so we share that. And so like, I'm like, too bad, so sad your dad if you didn't put it on there, because you're in charge of that grocery list too. So we try to hold each kid accountable and have them help with our family, have them do their laundry. Like, we all have our roles, and we work as a team, as a family too, and have systems. And I think what you do at your business can also apply at home, and it's helpful.
And it's not as intense as it sounds, but it does help. Yeah.
That's unintense.
A little bit.
Oh, that's
Picturing Amy with a whip walking around just like, right?
I know, maybe.
Maybe. All right. Well, a couple parting thoughts. So 2 questions left. This one first. Best parting advice for those listening, either in business, like something you wish everyone would know about business, and working with your spouse.
Business wise, like my advice, and it comes from Amy, is just take that step. Like, don't get overwhelmed by the staircase. Just take that first step. And it's amazing how well things go when you get into that mindset.
Yeah, I think easy wins is my middle name. So when you're talking about building a brand identity, it can be super easy. And when you think about a workout program or a nutrition program, same thing. I think people try to do this big old thing, and it's like, just do one little thing each day for a year. And, it's like eat 1/4 less, and you're going to see results at the end of the year. Just find something you can easily win at and make that your goal. But I think for me, have a purpose. Like, if you don't have a purpose with your business, it's going to ride the waves of all the things, whether it's inflation, employee issues. But if you're like, I'm like, modest is needed in this world, and if I'm not here, who's going to do that? And I am like focused on that, and nothing is going to rock me, whether it's all those things I talked about, because you can get down every day, but I have to keep going back to that. If you don't have that foundation, it'll be really easy to get rocked. So figure out what that is for you. And then the sky's the limit, and God will be with you, and it'll just be amazing. So that would be my advice.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That is really, really solid advice, and absolutely needed, especially the year that we're in right now.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. And that it really does lead me into my last question. And this is always my last question, because I believe the same thing. Like, if you don't have a purpose, your business is just, it can ebb and flow, and it can be so easy to get taken out. So at the end of the day, you guys have kids. Let's think 30 years down the road, right? You're sitting on the front porch with your grandkids, and you're looking back and you're talking about the life that you lived and the business, the brand that you built. What is the thing that you want those kids to remember most about who you both were and how you both chose to live?
I think it goes back to, you have to look to God for direction in your life. And if you do that, He will bless it. And if you don't have that, then this life is worth nothing.
Yeah, that's good.
You can't copy mine.
Oh, no. Ashley knows I do that a lot. No, I mean, just live with integrity and be a good example. That's all I want to know my kids to remember. Like, I was a good example to them, and I lived with integrity.
Yeah, and I think give it your all. Give it your all. I want to go, like I've said this before, I want to go into the grave going 150 miles an hour. Just go, do it. Like, and only listen to yourself and God, and don't worry about anything else around you. And it'll all work out. I truly believe that. So have faith.
Oh, so good. If you guys aren't leaving this podcast with your hair on fire, oh man, like, you're missing out. This is so good. Amy and Anthony, thank you so much for being on the show today. Thank you for being a part of our community, our mastermind. I've just really enjoyed getting to spend time with you both. You have built something incredibly special. Congratulations.
Thank you. And we appreciate you guys and the Boutique Hub and all the members. It really is
and
so helpful.
And all the content you put out, we consume that a lot. So thank you so much.
If you haven't did Retail Boot Camp, get over there. Get her done. It is awesome.
Thanks, guys. Hey guys, thank you so much for listening to this episode. We hope that you loved it. Don't forget to hit subscribe and leave a rating and review down below for a chance to be one of our featured listeners each and every week. For more information on our spirit of community over competition and how to access complete show notes and bonus downloads from our guests, head on over to theboutiquehub.com and join the community. We'll see you next week.